Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, the place for internet technology professionals whose work-life balance plan has imploded. We are here to provide solutions that will help the IT pro live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hi, this is Joanne Victoria from AskJoanneVictoria.com. I'm a transformational life coach, speaker, and author of 7 books. One of my bestsellers is Lighting Your Path, How to Create the Life You Want. I'm also the host of the Sanity Project podcast, which is a platform for experts, such as our upcoming guest, in the self-help, self-development community to share their wisdom, expertise, and solutions that will help the IT pro live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Our guest today is Trish Springsteen, spelled like Bruce does. And her best email address is trish@trishel, which is trischel.com.au. Yes, Trish is visiting from Australia. Her website link is trishspringsteen.com, and her personal Facebook page is trish.springsteen. And then she has 2 other fan pages. One is Trishel, and she'll explain that to me in a minute because I forgot to ask. It's TRISCHEL after facebook.com/ and then / Trish Springsteen. There I go again. Trish Springsteen Speaking, which is the big one. So Trish Springsteen is a multi-international award-winning speaker, mentor, author, and radio host specializing in speaker training. Clients work with Trish because they know she can help them have the confidence and self-belief to leverage their business with speaking and communication. Typically, Trish mentors introverts, authors, and advocates, helping them to step up and share their message with those who need to hear it. Trish has brought improved speaking and communication skills to published authors, advocates, bloggers, and introverts, as well as communication, speaking, and presentation skills to accountants from Crosby, Warren, Sinclair, executives from the IQ Business Group, scientists from Rio Tinto Alcon, engineers from James Hardie, and property retail experts from Jones, Lang, LaSalle. Trish is the author, co-author, and contributing author of 9 books and is featured in Motivational Speakers Australia. Welcome, Trish Springsteen.
Hi, Joanne. I am delighted to be here. Thank you for that introduction.
You're more than welcome. This is a delight for us as well. What time is it where you are right now?
At the moment, it's Friday morning, and it's just after 9 a.m., 9:12 a.m., on a very sunny spring day.
Well, at least it's civilized time compared to the time we had scheduled before where you'd be up at 4 a.m. I didn't like that. So here we are, and you're going to talk to our introverts, is that correct? In the IT world, and how they present themselves to their groups, to their peers, to their superiors, and how they can speak success in their job and in their business.
Yes, I'm going to be delighted to do that. It's really funny because I'm an introvert as well, and I talk to other introverts, and one of the questions we get talking and I sort of say to them, well, did you know that introverts make great speakers? And it's about that time a fellow introvert sort of look at me aghast and say, no, we don't. We don't like to be able to get up there and speak. And I say, well, we actually do make great speakers because we are introverts. And I thought I might just share a little bit about that and then share with your listeners a little bit about how to utilize storytelling, why we should be getting up and speaking, and the power that we can have when we speak, and how we can add a few techniques to that to make sure that we're connecting with our audience. So
that sounds perfect. Perfect.
Okay. So to answer that question about introverts, the reason that we make great speakers is because as an introvert, we like to listen a lot. We listen very carefully to what's going. We like to be in the background listening. And, introverts, I know for myself, we don't really like to get out there and communicate, and we're not really good at getting out there and speaking. However, when we realize that it's not all about us, which is one of the things I work with my mentoring clients to talk about, is that it's not about us. It's about the person and the people that we're speaking to. When we realize that if we don't share the expertise we've got, the subject matter expertise, the knowledge with our audiences or even with our teams of people that we're working with, then we're actually being quite selfish. And no one wants to be selfish. And I share that with people and they say, well, I'm not selfish. And I say, well, you have all this knowledge bottled up inside you, all this expertise. And if you were to share that with your team or with an audience, there could be one or two people in that audience that you could make a great impact on. And your words, your sentence or paragraph or a little bit of nugget of knowledge you have could change someone's life, either helping them in their career or helping them in a business that they're doing. And when you realize that, then you don't want to be selfish. You've got to get up and speak. Now, what makes introverts powerful is that because they listen, they also are listening and observing their audiences. They're listening to their team members extremely well. And that means that they know and can really hone in on what knowledge the audience want, what knowledge their team members want. So introverts are also extremely organized people to a certain extent. And because they don't really want to be out in that limelight too long, they become extremely focused. So they use their listening skills to identify what the audience or their team members want. They can very well put together a presentation. They put together a presentation that brings in the answers and serves the solutions to the problems that those people have. And then because they're focused, they'll get up there and they'll be extremely focused in what they're doing. So they'll be prepared to share that extremely articulately, coherently, competently, and concisely. So they get up there, they do the job, they add some techniques and strategies, because yes, we all need techniques and strategies, but they do that job very well because they never want to get away and then re-energize in the way that introverts do. So that's why introverts make pretty good speakers. And they don't realize that. They've got all these innate skills that if they just realized they could get up and do what they need to do, make that connection, not be selfish, share their message, and do it very well. Well, they need a few little guiding lines and a few strategies and techniques. So that's why I believe introverts make great speakers. And when I work with them and people add some of the techniques, and I'm going to share a couple of those techniques with you now, and when you add those in there, you realize that, yes, you can do it. You really can. Now, one of the things that stops us from getting up there and speaking, and I know some of your people out there will be listening and saying, well, I don't want to be a public speaker. I don't want to speak to audiences. The thing is, we are all speaking and communicating every time we're working in our business. And speaking skills that you learn on a speaking journey are extremely transferable to your business and to what you're doing in your business and career. When I talk about knowing your audience, it's exactly the same about knowing your client and how to speak to your client, knowing your teams and how to speak to your teams to share the vision that you want to take as a leader. A leader cannot be a good leader unless they can communicate where they want to go and what that vision and mission is and what the destination is. Now, unless you communicate that clearly to your team leaders and to your people who are following you, you're not going to get them there. So one of the first things that I like to speak about is you need to know where you're going and you need to know your destination. If you're doing a presentation, that's needing to know, where do I want to take this audience at this particular time for this particular information, for this particular audience? Where do I want to take them? What is the information I want to share? What is it I want them to have and get out of that information? Where's my destination? Because if you don't know clearly, every time you get up to speak, whether it's to a client, to a team member, or to an audience, if you don't know clearly where you want to take them, what the destination is, you're going to wander in the wilderness and they'll wander with you. So you may have a hit and miss, you may get something done, but you will not be as effective as you are. And when we're in this busy world, and especially as introverts, we want to be effective in the shortest possible time. We don't want to be wasting our time. Time is precious, and it's precious for us when we getting up there as a leader or sharing with team leaders or audiences, and it's precious for our team, the people who follow us and the people who come and listen to us. So we need to make sure that so that's the first thing. Once you know exactly what you want to share, and that can be the hardest thing, because often we have so much information. As subject matter experts, we have humongous amount of information to share with people. I've got so much information to share with you and only a short time to do it. So I'm honing down what I'm saying and picking the last bits and best bits that I can give you. So because of that, we have a tendency when we get up as subject matter experts to want to give and share all this information at the same time. And it overwhelms our audiences. So you need to know exactly what part of that information is going to be suitable for this particular time. Hone that down and just share that particular information. This is a side tip. In a 10-minute presentation, if I take it down to 10 minutes, we really only can share 3 main pieces of information. Any more than that, and we're going to lose the audience. And especially also if it's highly technical information. Now, you may be speaking to fellow people who are also on your wavelength, and that's fine. But again, you don't want to overwhelm them. But if you happen to be talking to people who are not quite into that IT area and you're sharing a concept that you want to share with your clients or with a group of people, that's really important to remember, that you can only share 3 main pieces in a 10-minute presentation, because you need to find the right top 3 main pieces. Now, if you're sharing for longer, you just do it in 10-minute lots. There's a lot more I can say on that, but I want to go on to a couple of other little tips to share with you today. So when you've worked out what you want to share, you need to know that you're connecting with your audience. Now, it's very easy to stand up there and dump a whole lot of information, and you think, right, I've done this information, I've shared this information, I've done my job, and I want to leave. The problem is, if you don't share it in a way that your audience or your team members can buy in on, then you've wasted some time and you've not achieved what you've wanted to do. And as an introvert, you've put yourself out for a less than effective result. Now, as introverts, if we're going to put ourselves out there and be leaders and speak and share information, then we want to make sure that we're effective when we do it, so we don't get called back to have to do it again or have to expand a lot more. So that means not only knowing what you want to share, but making sure that when you share it, you actually are using the same language that your audience are going to be understanding. Now, if it's IT to IT, you've got a reasonable, fine way of doing it because you're both speaking the same language. But even there are subtle differences, and you want to make sure that the point that you are sharing is actually going to be hitting and being understood by the people listening to you. If you're talking to a client or to a non-IT person, then it's very important that you use the language that they're understanding. So that's knowing your audience very well, knowing who you're speaking to, and knowing the language that they will relate to. And then you ensuring that you break down your concepts into that language. Now, I know most of you are probably using PowerPoint presentations. That is a very effective way of using images and graphs to get over complex concepts. But you must make sure that you're not presenting too much information on those PowerPoint slides, that overwhelms. So it's a matter of connecting with your audience, knowing where you want to take them, and knowing the language that you want to use to make that connection. Now, as a subject matter expert, we often have a tendency to, quite often, if we're not as expert at speaking as we would like to be, we may often find ourselves reading our information out. Now, there's nothing wrong with using notes or using the PowerPoint presentation to keep you on track. The problem and the trap that you don't want to fall into is that you actually read all that information without actually connecting with your audience. People will turn off if you are being robotic, reading it without any inflection in your voice, going through too fast, or going too slow because you're nervous. These are all things that can be really worked on to polish your skills. When you're speaking with an audience, you want to ensure that you are completely audible, that your voice connects with them. Now, we all have different voices. We all have different styles of communication. So one of the things I'd like you to check about is, do you speak very fast? Do you speak very loud? Do you speak very slow? You need to see where you are with your voice and your speaking voice, and then seeing whether that is what is one of the issues that may be hindering you connecting and making that connection with your audience. So if you do speak very loud, you need to practice to soften it down a bit. If you speak very soft, make sure you always use those microphones to help you if you can. If not, practice projecting your voice to the back of the room. And these may sound like simple techniques, but sometimes it's just changing some of the little simple things that can make you stand out from the rest of the people who are sharing information. And really, people, that's what we need to do in this world. We need to be able to stand out. If we've got a subject that we're an expert in, if we're in a corporate area that we were sharing our information in, and I'll just as a side effect, even going into interviews, performance interviews or interviews for jobs, you need to stand out. And those are all areas that involve speaking and communication, which is why I'm saying we are all speakers. We're all public speakers. So we need to make sure that we take our speaking skills and polish them so that they enhance our personal and career development. So it's not always talking to audiences and big audiences. It's talking to clients. It's performance reviews. It's talking to your boss. It's talking to your staff. And yes, maybe it's even talking to your partners at home. It's all places where you can use speaking skills. One of the things that I like to talk about is an equation that I have. And it goes like this. It says effective business communication is a balance between the intellectual content and the emotional connection. And this follows on from what I was saying about being able to connect with your audience and using your voice and using all of those things and the stage and that to connect. Because let's just think about it. And this is apologies to a lot of college professors or university professors that you may have come across if you've been to. A lot of them are really great with intellectual. They will give you all the facts and figures. They'll dump it down quite often at big, huge chunks at a very fast rate or a very slow monotone rate. And they'll walk away thinking that they've achieved. What they haven't done is brought in the connection with their students or with the audience, and they sort of haven't considered what's in it for them. That's too much information, too much intellectual content, and not enough emotional connection. On the other side, we have great motivational speakers. If you've ever been to motivational speaker, you've got people who are really keen on involving it, and they're so over the top and they're so passionate and they know how to connect with you emotionally, and you are so excited about what they're saying. And then you walk out and you think to yourself, well, what do I do with all that information? And what they've done is made brilliant emotional connection, but haven't given you any intellectual content, any takeaways, any, what should I do? Call for action. So when you're speaking people, you do not want to fall into only one side of that equation. You don't have to have a balanced equation. You sometimes have more facts and figures that you need to share. And you might have more emotional connection. You might have more persuasion, or we want to be more inspired. You might be trying to convince your team to change to a new vision or a new project that you've got to have. So you want to be a little bit more inspirational. But if you don't have both components of that, you will not be as effective business communicator or speaker as you could possibly do. The intellectual side, as I said, that's making sure that you don't overwhelm with too much information. It's making sure that you get the exact nuggets that you want. The emotional side is using your voice. It's using body language. That's your eye contact, making sure that you're making that connection with people. It's using gestures to give a visual component to what you're saying. Now, one of the other ways that you can make sure that you are balancing that equation is storytelling. Now, quite often when I talk about storytelling and I go into corporates and I talk about storytelling, I get this wide-eyed like, oh my gosh, we're not telling stories. What are you talking about? We're a corporate world. We've got information that we share. We're talking to staff. The reality of it is, and it's been proven with studies, is that storytelling will connect with people a lot more than just dumping facts and figures and statistics. Our brains are wired to sit up as soon as we start to hear a story. And, my belief is it goes back to those very early days when there was no written word and all the legends and all the laws and the culture was passed down by storytellers from one generation to another. And storytellers at that time were very much revered. And so we've been programmed to listen to a story that will give us those information, share that facts, but in a way that we can actually relate to. So the stories can be about your personal experiences. If you are, as a project manager, wanting to get your team on board, you can be sharing your personal experience with the project or with the new software or whatever it is that's coming up. You can share your personal story about what it was like before, how you were able to put it together and what it achieves. That's a story, people. And that's something that those people in your team will relate to. If you are talking to an audience or a bit more about presenting something new that your business or your corporation has, you may want to use client stories. Showcase stories of people who come and worked with your company, taken on board what you are pitching, and how that's changed them or helped to improve their bottom line. And those are stories. Those are things that people can relate to. Yes, you can say, oh, we did this and this is the percentage that we did and these are the facts and figures, this is the growth. But if you weave it into a story and let that connect with your audience, then you are going to pitch a lot better. You're going to make that connection and you're going to inspire your team to get on the project. So it can be stories about you, can be stories about clients, it can be stories about other people that have done things that you can bring in to showcase the points that you are getting across. So introverts make great speakers. They listen extremely well. They focus very well. They put their presentations together and they get their message across. Remember, though, as an introvert, you need to add some storytelling. You need to look at your structure. You need to know your audience. You need to know where you're taking them and how far you want to take them on that journey. And then make sure that when you do that, you connect with them by including intellectual content and emotional connection. Now, there's a lot more that I can show you. I can delve more into conversations at conferences. I can delve more into how to expand on your body language. And we can really look at networking, because we do all need to network as well. And that's something else that as introverts we have some issues with. But I don't believe I've got as much time that I can do all that. Can I, Joanne? Where are we going about time there?
Well, you've got a good 5 minutes left. I'll give you that. And if you've got 5 minutes worth of, I know you have covered a lot, and I think that the audience right now is going, whoa. And they're going to have to listen to this again and again and take notes, as I have been doing myself, because that's what I like to do. And I think that, you're good with what you've brought out. I think that if you go deeper, what I'd like to do is have you back for another time, for another visit and another recording, in a couple of months or so. And then you can go to that next step. We could do part 2 or something else altogether, because I think that this is really, really important. As you say, it affects not only their work experience and their presentations to the small groups, to the larger groups, to the clients, to their internal teams, but it also affects them when they're going for interviews. And most people don't know how to speak at an interview. And I think that is really important.
Absolutely. If you get some good speaking skills and you come to an interview, look, let's face it, in this world, we've all got pretty much the same skills. And we've done maybe, we've got the same certificates or diplomas. A lot of people, when you get to an interview stage, you're pretty on the same level playing field as that. So
Sure.
what's going to make you stand out at the interview above 4 or 5 other people who could do the job probably just as good as you? It's how you present yourself in that few minutes that you've got at that interview. That's what's going to make you shine, and that's what's going to leave in those interviewers' minds who they should be coming for. Now, the only way you can do that is to know how to harness your information, know how to sell yourself, and know how to do that with being concise, how to answer questions, how to use speaking skills like, again, knowing your audience, knowing who you're speaking to at that time at the interview, knowing how long you've got to do, how to structure, how to answer questions. I haven't even touched on how to answer impromptu questions this morning. All of those things, they're going to be the things that allow you to stand out. It's
Absolutely.
how you present yourself. So I could do a whole 25 minutes just on that as well.
Well, I'm happy. That means that we'll have another trip
Absolutely.
down Australia way. I know that, just so you know, guys, you listeners, Trish has come up with a free gift for you. It's a 10 free tips for improving presentations. Now, that probably just integrates with whatever she's spoken about today, that I've got 6.5 pages of notes, but I write big. But I do like to take notes because it goes into my brain easier. And, the neural pathways, people, for those of you who don't take notes and just sit on your computer, doesn't work as well as the old pen in your hand.
Yes, I take notes too. Whenever I go to a conference, workshop, wherever I am, I take notes. It's the way I learn. I mean, we all learn differently, but I'm a kinetic auditory learner, so kinetically I have to write notes so I can get that learning down.
Oh, that's what works best for me as well. I write notes and then it's in me, and I don't even have to think about it anymore. So I want to ask you, what do you think is what has been a lesson that has stuck with you through the years that you could share with our audience? Because, sometimes people will be listening and think that the guests live on a different world, live on a different planet, and don't live a normal life. And they're, they have stars behind them and the moon and the stars, and they shine and they glow. They don't know that you're real people and you've lived real lives. And this is really what I want them to know is, what do you see as this lesson that you've learned?
Oh, I'm a very real person.
I know.
I'm an extreme introvert myself, for people out there, and I spent probably the first 20 years of my business life dodging speaking, communicating. My idea of going to a network meeting or conference was to find the nearest tallest pot plant, look for the clock, and find the exit. And I'd spend 10 minutes and then disappear out the exit. And that was my whole concept of communication and networking. And it really wasn't quite what I would suggest getting me very far in my career or doing things like that. So I know how to slide. I know people, I guess the biggest lesson I learned, there's a couple of lessons. One is not to be selfish. I learned that by not having that courage, and I talk about 60 seconds of insane courage. It's taking that 60 seconds of insane courage and realizing that I do have something to share and I have a message. And if I don't do that, it's being selfish and could be depriving someone from growing and learning. So I take 60 seconds of insane courage, say yes to opportunities when they come along and do them. Say yes to getting up and speaking and sharing my message. Say yes to a leadership opportunity because you have something to share. And then make sure that you have put all the techniques and strategies in to shine when you've said that. My key presentation is all about believing, acting and sharing. And I think that's the lesson that I've learned through some personal issues, through career, through realizing and getting speaking skills. when you believe in yourself, you have that confidence and self-belief in your own message and your expertise. And then you put techniques and strategies to polish that belief. And then you get your 60 seconds of insane courage to share that. Then you are on the path to success and to being all that you can be. And I'm very passionate about each and every one of you giving yourself the opportunity to be all that you can be. And that's all that I've done. I've realized that speaking helps. I've realized that I don't want to miss opportunities, and I've missed a lot in my life, and I don't want to miss any more, and I don't want anybody else out there to miss them and then have to think back, wow, I wish I'd done this earlier. So that's my lesson, I think. Believe, act, share. Take 60 seconds of insane courage and grab opportunities when they come.
Well, you said you had a radio show. Do you talk about these things on your radio show as well?
Yes. My radio show is called Step Up and Speak Out with Trish. It's on Blog Talk Radio. You can go and subscribe to that. If you go to, if you do bit.ly/speak out with Trish, if you go to Blog Talk Radio /speak out with Trish, you will find my radio show. Just Google it, Step Out and Speak Out with Trish. Now, what I do in that is I answer frequently asked questions, and I interview people who have been stepping up and speaking out. So I get them to share what their life journeys have been like and how they got their 60 seconds of insane courage and how they use those stories to be where they want to be now. So I have a whole range of people. If you go to my website, trishspringsteen.com, and you go to the radio page, you'll see all the replays of all the people that I've interviewed. I've been doing it for over 12 months now. So there's some fantastic information there that you can get.
It's amazing what not only you, but so many people out there have so much information to share with the world. And I know that Blog Talk Radio, from what I know as of yesterday, where I was a guest on a Blog Talk Radio show and it was live, was that it appears in 27 countries. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I do my Blog Talk Radio show live every second Friday, and it goes right around the world. 27 countries or more, and I have listeners from all over the place. I've interviewed people from Canada, interviewed people from England, interviewed people from America, as well as people here in Australia, and it's great because you can listen live and then you can get the replays, and it also goes across to iTunes, so you can find it on iTunes as well.
I think it's amazing. It's amazing. Well, I want to repeat the free tips for improving presentations. You could find that at Trishel, TRISCHEL.com.au. And for the listeners, I want you to go to iTunes and I want you to write a review of Trish's presentation today. Write a review. Takes you 2 minutes. Just log into your iTunes and you can leave notes on her Facebook fan pages. You could leave any information to her anywhere. She's all over the place, and I'll have these things in the show quotes.
Yep, but I have a YouTube channel as well, so you can go to YouTube. You'll find it as under Trish Talks, and there's lots of videos there, and there's lots of information videos and tips that I've covered.
See, she's all over the place, which is what you should do. When somebody says Trish Talks, she better talk everywhere.
That's right.
Go to iTunes, give Trish Springsteen a great written review, and give the podcast a 5-star review, because we got her here and you're going to spend more time with her. I know that. So any last words, Trish Springsteen?
I think my last word is introverts rule. We are great. We just need to believe in how great we are and get up and share information with the world that wants to hear it.
I agree with you totally, because I'm an introvert as well. Happy landing, everybody, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to AskJoanneVictoria.com and continue the conversation on her podcast page. And get a free copy of her book, The True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life. That's AskJoanneVictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.